Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for joining us for today's town hall for Maryland alums with President Darrell Pines. I'm Jessica Roberts, Senior Executive Director of your Alumni Association. It's fantastic to see so many Terps joining us from all around the world to hear all about the exciting things happening at the University of Maryland. As you have probably heard, the university recently reached new heights, achieving its highest ranking ever in U.S. News and World Report. At your Alumni Association, we want to make sure that our alums, a powerful network of more than 431,000 Terps, know they are a vital part of the university community as it continues to grow and thrive. Today, you'll hear directly from President Pines about how the path forward for the university will advance the student experience, research excellence, and our commitment to doing good, as well as the part our alums can play in all of this. To lead us in conversation, we have former Maryland gymnast turned award-winning sports journalist and entrepreneur, Bonnie Bernstein, class of '92. Bonnie Bernstein is recognized by the American Sportscasters Association as one of the most accomplished female journalists in her field. An Emmy award-winning broadcaster, she spent nearly 2 decades on air with ESPN and CBS, covering the NFL, NBA, MLB, and college sports. She is currently the founder and CEO of Walk Swiftly Productions, whose recent credits include projects with ESPN, CMT, the NCAA, and the College Football Playoff. Bonnie is also the creator, host, and executive producer of the critically acclaimed podcast, She Got Game, inspiring women inspired by sports. A proud University of Maryland alumna and former academic All-American gymnast, Bonnie remains deeply connected to her alma mater through service on the Merrill College of Journalism's Board of Visitors. Please help me welcome President Pines and Bonnie Bernstein. We hope that you will leave energized about all Maryland has achieved and where we are headed. Whether by attending events, coming back to visit or speak to a class, mentoring a student, or giving to a campus priority close to your heart, always remember, Terps together, stay fearless forever. Take it away, Bonnie.
Yes, thank you for such a warm welcome. And good morning, everybody. I checked before we all got online and I said, how many people are on this thing? And I think we have more than 500 alum joining us, age ranging from 21, right out of school, fresh faces getting their first job, to some of our wonderful alum in their 80s. So we have an incredible audience. Thank you so much for taking the time. And as Jess was talking about some of the things that I've had the wonderful opportunity to do in my career, every time I talk about my career, it comes back to Maryland. It comes back to being a journalism major at the University of Maryland and the incredible foundation that my experience in College Park set for me as I embarked upon my dream of becoming a network broadcaster. And a couple of weeks ago, I brought my niece down to homecoming. I'm heavily recruiting her. And as I was watching her be in awe of everything that is the University of Maryland, it made me realize how proud I am to be an alum. Again, how my experience there created the foundation, and how honored I am to be facilitating this conversation today with President Pines. So the topics we'll be discussing truly are a byproduct of collaboration. I really appreciate the administration allowing me to weigh in because at the end of the day, my questions represent you, right? So of course, we're going to talk about the latest forward campaign, all the ambitious plans we have, the things we want to achieve. But we're also going to be talking about, for example, how federal funds are impacting our campus, free speech on campus, the evolving student experience at a time when cost of college continues to go up. So President Pines will also be giving us his take on the news that many of us received in our email inboxes on Sunday. The word from Athletics Director Jim Smith that Mike Loxley is staying, and we are making a deeper commitment to football. So we're going to touch on that too. So without further ado, President Pines, I'm going to throw a little softball at you just to get you warmed up. I have been so fortunate to interview some of the biggest players in sports over the last 30 years, from owners to players to GMs, a few presidents sprinkled in there. And having spent time with you personally and even watching you on stage when we were doing the campaign launch, I found myself thinking that you have this natural leadership aura about you. And obviously, the stage that you have as president of our university is the most public facing role you've had. And I'm curious, is your leadership presence, the way you articulate, the energy that you bring when you are in a room, whether it's with one people or hundreds of people, how have you consciously worked to polish your presence?
Well, first of all, good afternoon, Bonnie, and good afternoon, Terps. Thank you, Bonnie, for first doing this on behalf of your fellow Terps. Also, congratulate you on your incredible career and your just incredible commitment to your alma mater in so many different ways, and just being an iconic figure for all things Maryland. So, thank you for what you do, number one. I'm grateful for the fact that I'm at the University of Maryland and I've been at the University of Maryland over 30 years. And, you know, the first thing for me is I just love the place, right? I mean, I did not go here undergrad, but I've come to learn, love the state. I've come to learn, love College Park and love the university and everything it offers everyone that comes to our institution. And what you see that I exude is just genuine authenticity about the love for our alma mater, the love for the University of Maryland, the love for all things that Terrapin Nation cares about. And partly is because of the fact that it's been so good to me personally in my own career trajectory. I've been fortunate to be, on one side of my life, I'm a nerd, I'm a STEM major. I love all things STEM. That's why this airplane is behind me. It's just, by the way, just for those who care, it's a 777 Boeing aircraft, all composite. We won't go there. So the other part I have is that I love people, and so that's how I, present myself. And then the other thing that, the University of Maryland's been good to my family. Both of my children have gone here. My son was an athlete like you, Bonnie, and played, Division I soccer. My daughter played club volleyball, but both got excellent educations right here at University of Maryland. And so that's where I start. That's my foundation. Is just kind of what you see is who I am. I love the place. It's authentic. It's genuine. It's personal. And my job is to raise the visibility of this institution. And I think the other thing I'll just share a funny story with everyone. I've been working here, like I said, for 30 years, and 5+ years ago, I was announced as president of the University of Maryland. And many of you guys remember the Bagel Place, which is, right at the corner of Regents Drive and Baltimore Avenue, which I must have been going there like literally once or twice a week for 25 years. All right, now, and I was dean of engineering before, and I, would go there literally once or twice a week, and then I was announced on February 12th as the incoming president at the University of Maryland. And the very next day, February 13th, I go into the bagel place. And by the way, I've been going in there for 25 years, and they never talked to me. And they basically said, "That's him. That's him." And I'm like,
You became
"What are
very
you talking
popular all
about?"
of a sudden.
I'm the same person who's been coming in here getting the same bagel. And now just because I became president, you now want to take a selfie. So I mean, so that's how you become a public figure. It's because you become the president.
Okay,
Sorry.
I need to know the bagel order. What's the bagel order for
Oh,
20?
what was my bagel order? I'm the what do they call it? The sunshine bagel. That's what I would normally get at the bagel place.
Sunshine
Sunrise, excuse me, a sunrise bagel. Sunrise
Sunrise
bagel.
bagel it
Yeah.
is.
Now, unfortunately, the bagel place, which was also iconic, doesn't is no longer here with us.
Yes,
Unfortunately, after 35+ years, but we have to reimagine what will be there in the future.
yeah. Well, there are no shortages of places to get bagels and lots of other food based on what's expanded since I graduated in 1992. All right, let's dig in on this $2.5 billion campaign that we just launched over homecoming weekend. And I don't know how many of you out there know this. This was news to me. So when we wrapped our previous capital campaign in 2021, anything raised between 2021 and now is actually being applied to this new campaign. So President Pines, keep me honest here. I think we have raised what, about $900,000 or somewhere in that neighborhood.
Not almost 900 million.
Oh,
No,
sorry,
over 900 million.
900 million. So we are approaching the halfway mark, and we just officially launched the campaign a couple weeks ago,
Yes.
which is pretty good news. I am curious, what is behind the timing of this new campaign?
Well, our university is at a moment in time having great momentum. So let me just give you a few statistics just to make you, hopefully to make you all proud.
Okay.
We are now ranked number 16th among public universities and number 42 in the nation in U.S. News and World Report among all public and private universities. This is the highest ranking the university has ever been. This is a huge leap since 2020, going up 22 spots. Overall, moving up during my time period as president, a total of 22 spots overall, or eight spots as a public. So we've never been this high. So that we all should be proud of. That the university is getting its just due for its excellence and for the people like you who go out and represent us so well coming from our alma mater, which we're so grateful for. So that's number one. We also have been collecting other top 10 rankings and a whole bunch of other ranking systems. So, maybe our alums don't know, but we rank in Princeton's Entrepreneurship Magazine as a top 10 school for the last decade in innovation and entrepreneurship because we have alums who have gone off and started incredible companies like Google, um,
Under Armour?
Under Armour, Kava, I mean, Sirius XM Radio, I mean, all kinds of things that people are familiar with, not just Marylanders, but everyone in the world. And so it's exciting to have that reflected in ranking systems that measure the impact of our alums. So that's really exciting. And then in addition to the rankings, we see our progress through everything that our memberships in the national academies of our faculty. So, when you're a faculty member at Maryland, the highest honor that can be bestowed upon you in your field of interest is the coveted membership, a lifetime membership in your society. So in the National Academy of Education, or the National Academy of Sciences, or the National Academy of Public Administrators, or the National Academy of Inventors. So during the last 5 or 6 years, we have crossed over 100 memberships now of our faculty who have been doing incredible research and incredible contributions to society, who are now members of these prestigious academies. And that's been a main focus of ours over the last 5 years. And then finally, we launched this campaign with all of that momentum behind us, the Forward campaign, which we're calling the Forward campaign, the University of Maryland's campaign for the fearless, because we always have to have that word fearless in there because Terps are fearless. And it's really to continue the momentum, to push us forward to bold new directions, and to elevate the impact that our students, faculty, and staff are going to have on society. I mean, so that's why we are leveraging this moment in time because we have all of this momentum and we want to move it forward in a positive way.
Awesome. So I'm going to ask you what the current campaign is about. But before we do that, I just want to create a bit of a frame of reference. So in the previous campaign, the Fearless Ideas campaign, we raised a record $1.5 billion. We had more than 117,000 donors, more than half of whom were alum. We had a huge $209 million investment for the Clark Foundation, which I think was the largest contribution, 1,000 new scholarships, $2 million set aside for the Student Crisis Fund while we were dealing with the pandemic, 6 new facilities, several new capital and renovation projects. So we were able to achieve that. Now, as we look into this new campaign, what are the priorities and how are you determining the priorities?
Well, when the planning for something like a new campaign has been going on for many, many years, just didn't start within the last few months. In fact, it started literally at the beginning of my presidency, which was in 2020, with the idea of first closing out the Fearless Ideas campaign and getting to the benchmark of, achieving the 1.5 billion. Fortunately, we had great momentum then. And then as that concluded, we started the process of what are we looking to do with our university? And if you remember we all remember this because we were all under the guise of COVID. So, I literally started in the middle of the pandemic. And interesting thing about the pandemic in 2020, it just allowed sort of a moment of reflection, where the university, uh, we could really rethink about what should we be really doing now that we have a little bit of quiet time during the pandemic to kind of reimagine ourselves, right? And reimagine what the purpose of a land grant public university like ours is. And we all came together and it allowed us to craft our strategic plan, number one, which we called the Fearlessly Forward, another using the same terminology, the Fearlessly Forward strategic plan. But more importantly, it allowed us to reimagine what was important that universities like the University of Maryland should be doing for society. And that allowed us to do a focus on the public impact and to make our faculty, staff, and students to find ways to really impact the lives of real people. That was really the crux of how we started. And so the campaign is going to enable us to do even greater contributions in that domain space. So that's really how we started developing our priorities. We developed our strategic plan. We developed a focus on four pillars of that plan, which allowed us to get going towards a campaign that would now move us even further forward to our land grant mission, which is to focus on how we improve the lives of real people in Maryland and in society around the world. And that really became how we would focus our campaign priorities. So, for example, we have a theme in our Fearlessly Forward strategic plan that says we will invest in people and communities. Well, what that means is it means all things about people and communities. So, specifically, how do we make our university more affordable? So that clearly is a campaign priority. How can we get more Marylanders into the University of Maryland and have them leave the university with not a lot of debt? Towards your point about this, the fact that higher education has got a bit more expensive over the last 20 or 30 years, and how is that going to allow people to go to school, get a world-class education, and come out of the university with less debt? So clearly, a campus priority or campaign priority will be developing a financial needs scholarships going forward to help those needy families and those needy students. And then how do we continue to do that public impact research in great facilities? So that will be important. How do we raise the competitiveness of our sports teams? That will be part of the campaign moving forward and achieving that level of excellence. But it's really about setting those priorities that came out of our Fearlessly Forward strategic plan that allowed us to really, really move forward.
We have already mentioned that we've got 900 million in the bank. Can you give us a little taste of where some of those gifts are going to go?
So even within the 900 million, um, one of them that I think you've seen, I'm not sure if you've seen it, Bonnie, but some have seen it. There was this commitment that, believe it or not, University of Maryland, with our incredible basketball history, we didn't have a basketball performance center. It's like hard to believe, or a facility that could be used by our men and women's basketball teams, at their leisure. And we were the only institution that just didn't have one of these facilities in the Big Ten. So that was part of the early priority as part of this new campaign that we wanted to get this done and give our student athletes this incredible experience that no other, school would have, at least of the modern type of the facility that we have now. And that was all privately fundraised by a series of donors, with Barry Gossett being the lead donor in getting that done with us and in partnership with us. So we were very excited to cut the ribbon, open up the facility this summer, and allow our student athletes to have this incredible experience and have really the community of the University of Maryland be able to go inside that facility and see what our student athletes get to work with and how that will make them perform better on the basketball court. So that's just one little example, but it actually started as part of this forward campaign.
I know that you probably swell with pride to know that one of the other gifts, I think it's called Zupnik Hall.
Yes.
That right? So as the former engineering dean, tell us a little bit about that and why, because engineering really is one of our most well-respected, consistently highly ranked schools. So what do future engineering students have to look forward to around that?
Yeah, so this was another alum named Stanley Zupnik, who was a civil engineer. who graduated back in the 1950s and came back to Maryland and wanted to find a way to give back to the next generation. And his whole career was a very storied career that was in building incredible structures. But then he started to get into the movie industry. So he was doing sets for these incredible movies that all of us have seen, and he was behind the scenes designing the structures for those movies, which he was using his civil engineering skills. But nevertheless, he had this incredible career. And then one day, I was dean of engineering. He called up our development officer and he said, what can I do to help the university and to help the next generation of students? And we said, well, you could do this, you could do that. He said, no, I want to do something really big. And we're like, well, how big do you want to do it? And he said, essentially, I
This
want to
big
build a
or this
building.
big?
And we're like, okay, well, let's think about that.
You
So,
love me this
um,
much or
yeah,
this
or this
much?
much. It turned out to be really this much.
This big, yes.
Which really, was kind of really unique and caught us off guard, but it allowed us to think carefully with him and with his family, and then with the two leaders of two departments. How could we build a world-class facility, second to none, that civil engineering majors and mechanical engineering majors would really covet to be in that building? And that is the genesis of Stanley's Upset Call. It will have in the basement state-of-the-art material science laboratories, as well as state-of-the-art quantum engineering laboratories. And then it will have incredible spaces for students to work in. So we're super excited about this, and we're not far away. I think we're about a year out from when it will be a dedication, and then we'll open the building.
Very exciting stuff, sir. I mentioned we have more than 500 alum on this call, and we did gather a bunch of questions. So I
Okay.
think we're going to tackle three of them. And these were the three questions that seemed to come up more consistently than all the other ones. So we are going to pull from Alyssa, class of 84, undergraduate studies. She was curious about the federal funding cuts that we have all heard about, and we assume it impacts our university, but we're just going to go straight to the source. How are these cuts impacting College Park the most, and how are we working to counterbalance that?
Yeah. It's a great question. We've been very fortunate over the last 10 months that the cuts haven't hurt us as much. So
Why
far,
is that, out of curiosity?
well, I think we get the majority of our funds are coming from NASA, NOAA, Department of Defense. Federal funds are coming from these locations. So the universities that have large sources of funding from NIH tend to be the worst hit by the cancellations of grants and contracts, the reduction
Medical
in
research
workforce.
stuff, medical
Pardon me?
research, medical research,
Yeah,
NIH.
the medical research has gotten cut,
Yeah.
partly because of the change in the priorities. We do get some NIH funding, probably about 45, $50 million. And we've had some of that cut, but collectively, we've had about a total of $30 million in losses in grants and contracts. And this affects about 60 to 70 grants and contracts. We cumulatively total about 30 million. So not as bad and our total research expenditure is somewhere around 800 million.
Mm.
So while it is important, and especially if that was you were the PI of that particular grant or contract, but in the grand scheme of things, we fared pretty well, and our research enterprise is very healthy. But I anticipate, even with that said, when we combine our research enterprise with the University of Maryland, Baltimore, collectively, we think we'll be ranked in the top 10 still of public institutions. Partly because, again, we get a lot of our funding from the Department of Defense and some of the strategic areas of interest like artificial intelligence, quantum, that's what we do, and we do that really well. And so, in addition, we've launched in the last 5 years something called the Applied Research Laboratory for Intelligence and Security, or ARLIS, which is the only university affiliated research center that does work with the intelligence community of, of our country. And that has been receiving a lot more funding over the last several years as well. So we think that we're positioned pretty well to combat the cuts and cancellations and pivot to where the new administration is heading. We just happen to be fortunately that we're close to many of these federal agencies and laboratories, and we already have very good partnerships that will allow us to sustain ourselves going forward.
That's what I
It
was going
doesn't
to
mean that we're
ask
not
you.
worried. Pardon me?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Continue, please.
No, no, just it doesn't mean that we're not worried about future cuts. We are worried about the decision on the F&A rates, which has been lingering. But right now, we're pretty healthy, and we hope that we can mitigate the storm over the next several months.
I always find myself wondering when we at the journalism school, when our board talks about how are we marketing the school, I think one of our biggest advantages, differentiators, is our proximity to DC.
Yes.
And I was kind of wondering as you're talking through, okay, we're getting them from NASA, NOAA, and all these federal agencies. Do you think our proximity to DC and how that facilitates deeper relationships, how we have people coming to speak at our universities, has played a role in us, I wouldn't say necessarily escaping a lot of these cuts, but not suffering as much as other universities?
No, we always like to think of our proximity to the federal research enterprise as our unfair advantage. I mean, and let me just, give you some very like kind of silly examples. So, because we all live and work here, and so do the federal workforce, so it's often the case that you're sitting at an event, a sporting event, or one of your children's events, and somebody from a federal agency is sitting next to you, which
Mm,
starts a conversation because their child is on the same team that your child is on.
yeah,
And before you know it, you struck up a relation with somebody who happens to be the head of a agency. And therefore you have a relationship built because
yeah.
proximity does matter, right? And so we've been very fortunate that proximity, the unfair advantage, but also the strategic alignment of the University of Maryland and its research enterprise with many of the entities around us has put us in a much more favorable position, I think, than other institutions.
That's a great point. Question number two, I mentioned up top, we've seen the news, free speech on campus, lots of controversies, front and center topic in academia. So, Angel, class of 95, College of Behavioral and Social Sciences, was hoping you could address what steps the university is taking to protect students' right to free speech and ensure that students have a diverse and well rounded education.
Yeah, Angel, great question. Look, the University of Maryland um, upholds the First Amendment, free speech, and academic freedom, and within the laws of the state of Maryland and the federal government. The university must be a place where different sides of an argument can have an opinion. And if we can't happen at a university like the University of Maryland College Park, where else can it happen? It has to happen at a university. While it's been a very challenging time period, as we've gone through a series of crises, that still hasn't prevented the University of Maryland and its student body from having a voice and be able to hold protests for or against an issue on our campus, on McKeldin Mall, or in Hornbeck Plaza, or in some other venue. We've allowed all of it to happen as long as the students stay within our policies and stay within the law, the state of Maryland, and federal laws. And every now and then they touch the edge of those policies and laws, but we try to provide guidance to them. And so they've been able to have their voices heard, even on the most controversial of issues. Because I think that is the role of the university is to have open and honest dialogue about complex matters. And if we can't do that, how are we going to learn from each other, even though we can agree to disagree about a subject?
Absolutely. Third question. Extraordinarily relevant. College is not getting cheaper. And interestingly, I've had a lot of conversations, and I'm sure some of our alum listening who have kids that are getting ready to go to school and they're having these debates in their own households. One of the interesting byproducts of COVID is that classrooms can be as impactful remotely as they are in person, which has a lot of people wondering, well, if my kid can take classes remotely, we don't have to deal with, living on campus and the cost of food and all those sorts of things. And so that tees up the question from Karen, class of 99, College of Computer, Mathematical, and Natural Sciences, who asks, What specifically is the university doing to ensure this place stays affordable? And not to put you on the spot, but sorry, not sorry. um, are we thinking about any tuition increases?
That's a very good question. So thank you, Karen, for providing that question. First of all, as a land grant public institution flagship campus of the state of Maryland, number one, affordability, accessibility are top of mind all the time. We want the best and brightest from every zip code, first of the state of Maryland, and number two, of any part of our nation to come to this university and be able to come to an affordable place, get a world class education, have a great experience, and go off on a wonderful journey on their career. This is what it's all about for us. Even though during the COVID experience we had to move to virtual learning, it still could not fully replace the residential campus and the experiential learning opportunities that you have by engaging both in the classroom and out of the classroom. So that is why our residential experience is unique. And that's why young people still want to come to the university, because you cannot replace the residential experience in a virtual environment, number one. Number two, while the cost of higher education has gone up, we have developed a number of financial aid programs to help assist those families, to ensure that cost is not going to prevent their child from coming to College Park. So over the last few years, we launched something called Terrapin Commitment. It's a $40 million financial aid program, soon to become an $80 million program, hopefully over the campaign. And that has enabled over 8,000 low-income families to come to College Park and not have to pay tuition and fees. And in some cases, not even have to pay too much for room and board. That allowed those families to get an education and come out of the University of Maryland with no debt. In fact, 70% of University of Maryland, 70% of the 31,000 undergrads come out of the University of Maryland with no loan. 70%.
71%?
70%.
Wow.
70%.
Okay.
So only about 30% of our student population that graduates comes out with some type of loan debt. And that's because we've been working on these financial aid packages, work study, and other ways to get them grants from the state, from the federal government, and for philanthropy to enable their ability to not have cost be a detriment for them and their education. And so this is a true commitment by the administration, by the provost and myself, and the rest of the leadership team to ensure that that happens. So, and of course, philanthropy and the Forward campaign plays a big role into ensuring that maybe we'll get to 80% of our students, graduating with no loan, with no debt and no loans. That is our goal.
That's incredibly encouraging. 70% is a that's
Yeah,
that's a big number.
that's a
And
big number. I think that, and also you should know that the in-state tuition at College Park, um, and you include fees, is 11,800 right now. It's still one of the lowest in-state tuitions in the United States.
awesome.
Yeah.
As we continue talking about our students, looking forward to tomorrow's Trailblazer, would love to get your insight around what life looks like on campus today and how Maryland is shaping the next generation of Terps. When we were at the campaign launch a couple of weeks ago, the first part of the program was current students coming on stage, and just hearing them talk, you're just like, your mind is blown, and it really sort of gives you security about like our future generations. Um, can you brag on a couple of kids you've had the opportunity to come
Yeah.
across and the vision that they relay when you're having conversations with them?
Yeah, so let's talk about a few of those kids, right? We had 5 students get up at the Forward campaign and just share their experience. It was a beautiful thing to see. And I agree with you. Like when you see the young people, and they were just a smidgen of what we could have put in front of the audience,
But they were
and they're
all
all
so
just so
impressive in their
they're
own
so
way.
impressive, right? And so let's talk about Dylan Fontes, who's a student athlete, who's a football player, who literally balances practice and his sociology studies with reading to elementary school students and taking part in Best Buddies walks that support people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. I mean, how does he have any time for that, right? But he's able to do that and get his fellow football players to follow him. Or maybe Emmy Werner, a doctoral student who has spent 2 years working at an urban farm. Who would have thought an urban farm in the city of Baltimore to improve food insecurity across the city, this neighborhood of Baltimore, and teach the local residents how to grow their own food, how to maintain it in a sustainable way, and then even cooking lessons on how they might cook this food that they've actually grown in their own urban garden. I mean, that's pretty exciting work. Or finally, Nidhin Gangzetti, who's a co-founder of something called Project Lift, a student-run group that works with local small businesses to implement technology and help them streamline their operations and allow them to grow. I mean, I don't think I was doing that when I was 20 years old.
I was just thinking that. I'm thinking, what was I? Oh, I mean, I knew that I wanted to be a journalist, but when the kids were up on stage and they were talking, and I don't know if it's just a byproduct of how much more access they have to information and how class curricula has evolved because of all the resources that are at their disposal these days. But when I tell you, I'm just sitting in the audience and I felt like this small, listening to all of their big ideas. It was pretty amazing. Speaking of technology, I do want to touch on AI, and it was very interesting. I had the chance to go out to the Stanford Business School celebrated their 100th anniversary a few weeks ago, and I was there taking some meetings, and they had a whole day's worth of discussions. And the very first panel were it was comprised of the current dean of admissions and the previous deans of admissions, and they were talking about AI and how they felt about students potentially using AI on their applications and during doing their classwork and stuff. And the response was fascinating. They said, on one hand, we don't really want them using AI as a crutch, but on the other, we're in Silicon Valley. We are all about technology. And
Right.
so there is sort of this balance. And so I say that to tee up the question about how do you feel technology, particularly AI, data analytics, how are we encouraging and how are students leveraging that to have a personalized learning experience, to streamline advising, strengthen student engagement? How are we best using AI tools to the benefit of our students?
Well, I mean, I think first of all, thank you for this incredible question. Artificial intelligence has been on an incredible trajectory um, since November of 2022. And it was only November of 2022 when
Yeah.
the first version of ChatGPT came out. I mean, we're only 3 years into this revolution that has hit all of us like a sledgehammer about its potential.
Yeah.
But I also want us to know that I want this audience to know that background, a little bit of background, I think is really important here. Um, the University of Maryland has an incredible computer science department that has been around for over 40 years. And what our TERP alums probably don't know is that the inherent large language models that are behind ChatGPT for OpenAI were invented by two Terps who came from the computer science department. And one of them worked at Google and one of them worked at OpenAI. And this is a true story. Believe it or not, these two alums who worked on these foundational large language models named the original large language models that ChatGPT is based on. One of them named it Bert, and the other one named it Elmo.
Paying homage to Jim Henson,
Jim
presumably.
Henson and the Muppets, just to show you the affinity back to the University of Maryland, right? And so I just want the alums to be proud that some of the original foundational large language models that are now evolving in ChatGPT and OpenAI came from two terps. That's number one. But as you look at this technology and the opportunities for College Park and people in general, there's this incredible things that we're doing now across the university. We launched a major institute called AIM across the entire institution. We've created over 10 or 12 chatbots, and one of them, imagine now that you can come to school at College Park and you literally can have a customized virtual assistant or a virtual tutor that will help me, Daryl Pines, freshman, to help with my Calculus 1 class or my Algebra 2 class or my psychology class. But it's customized to me and to the instructor who's teaching the class. Well, that has allowed AI to be this incredible tool that we can not only use just to find information, but really to help me learn better as a student. So that's really what we need to remember, that while it is an transformative technology, it's also just a tool. And it's equivalent to, in a sense, maybe if you go, well, if you're as old as I am, then you'll remember what I'm about to say. When I went to college and I was converting from my freshman year to my sophomore year, the HP 35 calculator came out, and essentially it revolutionized how we did education in computing and in math. But the faculty were afraid of it, just like the Stanford faculty were worried about students
Everybody is.
using ChatGPT. It's
Parents,
exactly
yeah.
analogous, right? It's just a different era. So, but and of course, in this era today, it moves much more quickly than it did in the old era. But still, it's just a tool, and we have to use it that way. So here at Maryland, we are not only using it in the way we teach and learn, but we're also using it in how we do research and how we help improve the planet on solving these large, grand challenge-like problems. So we are doing this in this new artificial intelligence interdisciplinary institute at Maryland we call AIM, and it involves all 12 schools and colleges. And it's really exciting because we're working on what we call trusted AI. We're also working on tools for the disabled community that no other school is really working on. And so we're very excited about launching also the first only human-centered AI curriculum anchored in the Department of Philosophy at our university. And no other university is doing that. So a lot of novel things are happening both in the curriculum as well as in research, but we think it's a transformative tool that will impact lives for a long time going forward.
Human AI centered curriculum. Can you put that into layman's terms for me?
So essentially, the funny thing of how this all started was, so essentially, it's saying the following. Um, that the way humans are going to enhance themselves is that the human plus AI will enhance learning. So if you think about it as an equation, human plus AI equals enhanced learning, or human plus AI equals enhanced creativity.
Okay.
That's human-centered AI, and it will allow you to use it as a decision aid to make decisions. It's still the humans involved. It gives you information, but you still will be the core center of how you execute your decisions. So be it the name called human-centered AI.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for the clarification for those of
Sure.
us who are not as intellectually inclined as you
No
are.
worries. No
Okay. I
worries.
know we touched a little bit on this earlier, but I know there are some programs in place, and I would love you to share um, a little bit more in the way of detail about, some of the programs, initiatives that when we think about the prospect of the student college experience, what are we putting in place to say, like, hey, okay, of course you could learn these programs online, but if you come here, if you are immersed in our culture and community, you will get fill in the blank. What does that look like?
So, historically, the University of Maryland has always been known for its residential programming that sits in its honors programs. So, more than half of the first year students that come to College Park end up in one of these honors programs. Something like 70% of our incoming freshmen sit in an honors program, a specialized experience that could be in cybersecurity, it could be in biological sciences, it could be in innovation and entrepreneurship, but they literally get to be pick or be assigned one of these incredible residential experiences. So it's not just in the classroom, it's in the residence hall where they get an additional experience of that particular topic, right? So that's something that you can't do virtually. Again, you have to be in residency. Then, as I told you before, based on the rankings, that we're a top 10 innovation and entrepreneurship university, we've started a new program where imagine that you're Bonnie Bernstein, you're a freshman, you have this incredible idea about journalism, something you've never seen before, but you're thinking about it and you say, gee, how can I pull this off? I'm 19 years old, I'm trying to figure this out. But we created a place for you. We created this new place on campus, which we call the Idea Factory. And it's about students, staff, and faculty who have an idea and they need a little help to move it along. So believe it or not, you can go into this building, you can sit down with one of the advisors who might be an entrepreneur, might be a not-for-profit leader, and it listens to your idea and helps you realize your idea. Everyone has an idea. They just don't know how to realize it. And so this is why we created this unique experience called the Idea Factory, where we curate some of the best ideas from our students and our faculty, and we try to execute them. We've even created a program called X Foundry that's embedded in the Idea Factory, which allow teams of students to work on really complex problems that if they solve them, they will get some investment to actually go and take that to the next level and scale it. So I'll give you one example. We had a crowdsourced bunch of students who crowdsourced a problem, and the problem was school safety. As we know, school safety is a problem all across K-12, all across the United States, where weapons are brought into the school environment, and how can we protect young people and the faculty and staff at those K-12 entities and prevent these really mass murders and mass shootings. Well, the students have actually come up with a really revolutionary way to do this, which took about 18 months to happen, but it was this crowdsourcing of ideas and working in teams, and now they are going to exit the Idea Factory and become a monetized entity working on school safety. So these are, again, the kind of experiences that you can only have in person and in an environment that curates these kinds of ideas and takes them to the next level. Finally, we are giving every student, and this is something that parents have been asking me for years, can you please, beyond giving my son or daughter a great journalism education or a great business education, can you give them some life skills? Can you give them some skills in
Why are
financial?
those important? That's silly.
To
They need
give them some skills in simply things like managing their checkbook or financial wellness. So now we've created a whole series of wellness courses and curriculum that that's open to students to take, so that they can walk out of here with some practical skills that will help them in their life forever, like managing their checkbook, their checking account, opening up a bank account, how to invest. So things that maybe we weren't doing before, but now we're doing across all majors for all students going forward. So again, you can only get this here at College Park coming into our residential environment.
All right, I'm trying to keep tabs on time. We're at
I
12.
know we're running a little bit late.
All right, so we're going to go a little bit more rapid fire the rest
The
of the way.
lightning round.
Lightning round. Research wise, where do you think we are uniquely positioned to do research in, I don't know, emerging areas or global challenges? Just give me a couple examples.
So we are working on childhood literacy. Third and fourth graders who don't read at a third and fourth grade level. Believe it or not, in the state of Maryland, 15 to 20% of third and fourth graders do not read at a third and fourth grade level today, which is hard to believe in a highly educated state like Maryland. So that's one of our grand challenge projects that we're funding. And now it's in its third year, and we're starting to see the students turn the corner, and their test scores are starting to go up. And it's due a lot of factors, but primarily it's due to some of our faculty who are working collaboratively with the school system and also with a partner, Morgan State University, to help put these best practices on training teachers on how to teach students how to read, and so that students can read to learn.
We know that research that lives in an incubator doesn't do anybody any good. So, with all of the wonderful things our students and faculty are doing on campus, what are we doing to ensure those discoveries translate into real, meaningful collaboration, change, better society?
Well, one of those major areas is the Capital of Quantum Initiative and quantum science. So, fortunately, we hired world-class faculty in physics and engineering and computer science. And several years ago, about 20 years ago, they were actually working on some of the enabling technology that would enable the next generation of computing we call now quantum computers. And one of the technologies became the enabling technology that led to a firm called IonQ, which went public in 2021 with an IPO on the New York Stock Exchange, where it was the first pure play quantum computing firm that came from our researchers, our laboratories, that translated into a monetized product. That firm today has a market capitalization of approximately $20 billion and is employing 400 people around the United States and the world, with about 200 here in College Park. So it shows you that the value of research and its ability to translate out of the laboratory into a monetized product can be done and generates not only economic development, but it puts the United States and the state of Maryland ahead of the competition in the world in this innate and sort of evolving field of quantum science, quantum computing, quantum communication. It is the next big thing. And hopefully, when it's all said and done, it'll have its roots at the University of Maryland.
Okay, we're going from macro to micro. I get down to campus, I don't know, at least 2 or 3 times a year for board meetings, other stuff going on with the gymnastics team. And both sides of Route 1 look vastly different from 1992. What do you see? You've been on campus almost as long as I've been. What do you see when it comes to new partnerships, economic opportunities, innovation, infrastructure, culture, the expansion, the evolution of, I don't even know, I don't think we call it Route 1 anymore. I think we call it Baltimore Avenue.
That's
Um,
right.
so, what have you seen through your lens that is powered by our people?
So what I see is a beautiful collaboration between City of College Park, Prince George's County, and the state of Maryland. All of them play a role in what you see when you come off of the Beltway and you come down Baltimore Avenue towards the campus. Without that partnership, none of this is possible. And I give my predecessor, President Wallace Lowe, and his predecessor, Dan Moat, for first having the vision, establishing the partnerships, and I'm just tripled down on everything that they did. And so, what you see, if you haven't been here in the last 10 years or you haven't been here in the last 20 years, is an incredible explosion of development where it's both retail, residential, place setting, place making to really upgrade the surrounding community around the university, which is the anchor, and also a place where people want to live, work, and play. That wasn't the case when I first came here 30 years ago, but it is where we're heading in the future. The evolution of the Purple Line, which will go through the center of campus, which
Yes.
will create really a vibrant community around that Purple Line, which will connect with the Metro as well as the MARC rail line. So we hope to see an expansion in economic development and in making the community just a little bit better and a place that where everyone wants to come live, work, and play. We're not there yet. We're probably about a decade away from where we really want to be, but it's an evolving community and an evolving landscape. But I hope people see that it's improving the surroundings around the community and also adding value to the university.
Translation: if you haven't come visit, come visit.
Come visit. Please come visit.
And please come visit. Okay, last one for me, and then we're going to wrap this up. I would be remiss as a sports journalist to not mention the little email we all got in our inboxes on
What
Sunday.
email was that?
I'm going to assume that you and I are on the same distro list, but maybe I'm wrong. But athletics director Jim Smith sent us all a note saying Mike Loxley is our guy. Things have changed over the last couple of years. With the quote, with the support of President Pines, Maryland Athletics is committed to making the necessary investment in our football program to position us to achieve greater success, which is super encouraging. What does that mean?
Well, first, let me encourage everyone, if they can, is to read the letter from Athletic Director Jim Smith. It's also, you can just go to our athletics website if you don't know what Bonnie is referring to, but it's right there on the website. So essentially, it's the following: recent results obviously have fallen very short of our expectations of excellence at our university in football. But we are committed to building a strong program that competes eventually for Big Ten championships and earns a place, hopefully, as a place down the road in the college football playoffs. We really want to play at the highest level. Um, what Mr. Smith mentioned in the letter is that we haven't provided enough resources to our football program over the last several years, but we intend to change that with his leadership, and the hope of that will enable us to compete at the level that we need to compete at. So that's the letter that Jim wrote about, and that's the letter that you're referring to. As we have the same expectations for every aspect of our university, excellence must be achieved in all aspects of our university, including athletics and including football. So our goal is to support our football program, support our coaches, support our student athletes and our staff, and try to get to a level of excellence that we all anticipate when we started this process of being in the Big Ten.
Okay, we're doing a virtual pinky swear. Okay, you're doing a pinky swear. President Pines, it's been an absolute joy. We are at the top of the hour. Again, we've had more than 500 of them joining us. Any final message before we sign off?
Sure, I always, in every alumni event that I go to, even if though it's a virtual alumni event, I want to give our alums five things they can do to support their alma mater. Number one, come back or do this virtually. Give your time. Give your time to the unit that you came from, whether it was journalism, by serving on the board, advisory board, the board of visitors, speaking to seniors about your career. Give your time. So that's number one. Number two, to help another Terp have a world-class education like you have had, you can give funds in the form of a gift, in the form of a scholarship, to provide a needy student an opportunity to get a world-class education. So that's number two. Number three, if you are an employer or if there's positions, internships, long-term positions at your government location, your corporate location, your not-for-profit location, then always think about how could you help a Terps helping Terps get an internship at your location or get a long-term job at your location. Um, that's what we would love for you also to do. And in your work environment, always talk proudly. This is number four. Always talk proudly about your alma mater, like other colleagues do about their alma mater. So speak proudly about the University of Maryland. Tell them about the rankings, so that you keep promoting our institution to others. And then number five, and this is the most fun one, when you're in some random location, just say,
I'll go
"Go
Terps.
Terps,"
I
and see
actually
if
didn't
everybody
even
how
see
people
that.
respond to you.
I didn't see that. I didn't get down to like the very bottom of your comments, but that totally makes sense. President Pines, you are a breath of fresh air. Thank you so much for your candor, your insight, your energy, and your commitment to this university. And everybody, thank you so much for just taking a little bit of time out of your day. Hope you enjoyed the conversation. Go Terps, donate, and make a difference. Have a great
All
afternoon.
right. Go Terps, everyone. Take care. Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you, sir.
All right, bye-bye.